choose.
Okay, we will now convene the Minturn Town Council meeting of January 21st, 2026. Roll call, please.
Here.
Oh, here. Dusty here.
Ben here.
Brian here. Eric here.
And Earl's here. And with that, we'll stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next is the approval of the consent agenda. Anything anybody needs to pull, do so now.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Second.
Motion by Dusty, second by Tom, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next we have approval of the regular agenda. Is there any amendments or revisions?
No.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the regular agenda.
I'll second that.
Motion by Eric, second by Gusty, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Does anybody on council have a conflict of interest on any item on the agenda this evening? Okay, hearing none. We'll now open this up to public comment. If anyone in the public wishes to address the council, please do so, as long as it's not an item that's already on the agenda, in which case you could give us some input at that time. If you're online, please raise your hand. Got anything, Cindy?
No one online with their hand raised.
Nobody.
All right, moving on. Next we have council and committee reports.
None.
Nothing.
I attended the Minturn Fitness Center meeting last week, and Ryan Rooney has left the Steensville Work Club Vail, and Dan Wieland replaced him as president of the Minturn Fitness Center. But the good news is revenues are trending up. Most of it's because of personal training. And once again, thank you, Tom. That's all I had.
And I'll add to that, I just found out January's been the best month ever for the fitness center in terms of memberships.
December was the best period.
Oh, I was
January is about,
misinformed.
no, January's trending the way it needs to. You may be right. When we talk again in February, you may have actually be right.
I was told that January.
We're 74% ahead where we were ever in any other January, so it's pretty likely.
There's nothing else for them to do. Might as well come in and work out, huh? Okay, Brian, you got anything? Yeah. Okay, we'll go ahead and get going. Staff report.
Yeah, me and Jay have two things. Jay wanted to make a note about the two things. Jay wanted to make a note about the local election.
We're still looking for a couple of candidates. If anybody knows anybody that wants to run. Give you guys the stink eye. The application is being accepted. You can pick up a petition in my office. They are due back by about 4 o'clock, end of business on Monday, this coming Monday, the 26th. So it won't be a big deal. It's only 10 signatures, but you need to get if you know anybody that wants to run. If we don't have enough candidates, we're going to kind of have a little shuffle going on. Eric is running for mayor, and he is in the first half of his 4-year term. So if nobody runs against him and or he wins, then he will have a 2-year term that will open, and that will stand for appointment after the 7th of April. If we don't have enough candidates after the 26th of January, then we will appoint those that we have, and then we'll on April 15th or so, that meeting, and then we will hold applications and just appoint like we've done before. Each of those, even though the one remaining term. We've got Spence that's put an application in. And Lynn has put her application in. So those are 4-year terms. The other term is a 4-year term, but because of the way election laws work, you can only appoint to the next election. So it's a 2-year, then you appoint for, and then they run for a 2-year, and then it goes back to a 4-year. And that keeps us with the three terms staggered.
Okay.
The other one I wanted to bring up, if anybody has a question on that. The other thing I want to bring up is the scholarships. The applications for the town scholarships are on the website. They're available. They close, they have to be turned in, not postmarked. They have to be turned in no later than March 2nd. And any full-time resident that has 2 years or more in town can apply. It does not have to be a senior in high school going to college. It can be an adult going back to school. It can be a trade school. It has to be a degreed or certificated program. And then you have to prove that you were accepted and whatnot. But we'll get to that as soon as we get applications in. So the March 20 or March 2nd is the deadline on that one. They're available right now. If anybody's got any questions on those?
Do we need a council member reappointment to the committee?
Kate, you are on the scholarship committee right now, and even if you don't run for the seat, I would still request the council, just if you're willing to do it, to appoint her. That'll get us through April. And everything's pretty much done by the end of March anyway, so. But she's done it. She knows where we're at on it. Do you want to do it?
Yes,
Oh,
the
thank
best
you.
committee.
It's actually pretty cool.
It's great.
It's one of the few things that really make you feel good.
Yeah, the kids are all right.
Are you saying most of this makes us feel bad?
Your words.
I don't know Jay's words.
Do you want a motion on that?
We don't normally have a motion
Oh,
for the
okay.
committee, so we're good just to go if you're willing to do it. The board doesn't have any questions.
Cool. Any questions for staff about anything else, concerns, issues that you'd like to bring up to staff?
I like the street fixtures you got there.
Yeah, right now I'm working with CDOT. One of the key issues is breakaway transformer bases. As you know, those beloved orange streetlights sit on transformer bases that are very attractive and very expensive. So we're trying to get a more decorative streetlight that would not be on a transformer base, but would be on like breakaway pins. And so far, the initial discussions are that they would allow for that. So I think we're going to work with Jeff to figure out what the preliminary locations would be. So we're just working through that at this point, and then hopefully we can, if we can get through that and not have to do transformer bases, that would be great. And then we'll come back to you to kind of talk a bit more.
Yeah, I really liked, there was some information in there where they had an interface for low voltage electronics. So for instance, if you want to have, if the town decides they want town Wi-Fi, they could put a wireless access point and, wire that in. When they were doing the last lights, I was urging the town to at least get network cabling while they're doing it, and they never did. So it'd be good if we could be looking at the multimedia aspects of especially for digging of the electrical lines.
Yeah.
So
I think if we are going to trench, we might as well just put a conduit for fiber or anything else that may come along. And if somebody wants to put that in or the town decides to put it in, it's ready to go. So I've been taking a look at that and kind of what our options would be. I think once we get to the site plannings of where the new fixtures would go, kind of line that up. I think that'd be a good idea.
I don't know if you've thought about moving some streetlights, but where I live, the cul-de-sac is completely dark. It's pitch dark. Going in there, there's no light whatsoever, but there's a huge streetlight in somebody's backyard, which I have no, I think somebody elderly lived there once or something. but, it seems, it's kind of odd placement. I know one of the neighbors is really bothered by it.
Yeah, we have quite a few of those Excel streetlights that are mounted to the power line poles, and they're mounted very high, and they're kind of in odd locations, and they're extremely bright. I mean, there's one outside the manager's house, and I don't know why we need those. So my hope is we can kind of work on 100 block, 200 block with something decorative, and then look at something a little more low profile for other blocks, and kind of start to get rid of some of those Excel lights. I don't think they do the best for us.
No. I have the same. I got.
And think about maybe adding some kind of light in that.
Yeah.
Cul-de-sac. Which, it makes no sense. I mean, it's super, super dark in there.
Yeah. Okay. Any other feedback to staff?
I think that I came up a few weeks ago, the Sasha that was in here, asking about the sheriff's office and speeding during the school bus pickups.
Mhm. At the south end.
Well, the south end, and it kind of comes through, and then yesterday I was going down to drop my daughter off, and I noticed the sheriff was following the Avon bus. I was wondering if you ever had a chance to ask the sheriff to see if they could do what Scott used to do, where he would, as many mornings as he would pick up the bus on the south side of town and just kind of like shadow it until like after the end of the turn and then wave off. I think that helped people slow down.
Deputy Bell does.
Does he? Okay, cool. I've seen it come through a couple times. I didn't know if
He's been about once a week.
awesome. Cool.
I know the presence has been a little more limited lately. I think they've been down 4 or 5 deputies. So, but I think they have a few more coming in. So, but we'll touch base with them on that. And then Kevin Rindy with Code Enforcement has been doing tracking speed data along Main Street at different locations. So I hope to have a kind of report back to you and give you guys a better idea of like what we know about the speeding and what's going on out there from the data. So hopefully the next few weeks here we'll have that for you.
Awesome. Thanks.
Did Leanne at Forest Service ever actually give you a timeline for responses back to your meeting on the 8th?
Meeting
Shooting range?
Yeah, I had a meeting with her. I don't know why that is tripping our memories. A week and a half ago, we talked about.
Just so we're waiting on questions. I'm just curious if she gave you any kind of deadline, or if it's the standard federal government. We'll get back to you next election cycle.
Yeah, they don't want to stick their neck out.
I don't think there was anything specific about deadline, but I think that for just basic special use permit, I think they said that it could be possible that we could have something by summer, but in a very limited way. I think there was key questions that we asked back of them as far as the application process, certain controls, and then I think we asked a little bit more about the long term, like the previous efforts that we had on the shooting range and what actually did happen to them, and if they could give us a response on that. But nothing super definitive.
And a related question about wildland mitigation. I know you met on that subject with the district wildlands people. How did that meeting go? I think that this summer is going to be pretty scary in terms of fire risk.
I thought that it went pretty well. I don't know the correct title. The sergeant that's over wildland who was out for a little while is back now. I didn't have an opportunity to meet with him, but
Fairchild Smith or something like that. Robert.
I can't. His name has left me, but yeah, Hugh. Yeah, Hugh. Yeah, so he's back in now. So hopefully we'll get a chance to talk with him. But we thought it went pretty well. I think the thing that we kind of focused on is what the town can do on town-owned property, and then maybe working with some private property owners for mitigation. And then I think the key thing that they said is working with them on lining up additional funding or identifying those projects that we can work together on. And so Mike Martinez, Public Works Director, was there, and we kind of said that we would follow up with them in the coming months about where we'd like to prioritize mitigation work. I did talk with County Manager Jeff Schroll last week. The county may be having some discussions about having a additional sheriff's office support for enforcement on federal land. And we know that's a big issue with the shooting range. So I emailed Jeff last week and said that we would love to hear more about that if they get some traction there. And I'm sure that we'd be very interested in providing whatever support we could to a program like that. There are some concerns in the last manager's meeting with the county manager and town managers from Vale and Avon. We're concerned about if there is, an emergency, if there is fire, and getting reimbursed through the federal government, because the county's had challenges with getting reimbursed from last summer's fire with the federal government. So there's going to be some planning efforts and some cooperation on how we can be better prepared for the summer. There was also an email that went around earlier this week with Siri from Eagle River Water Sand about trying to prepare. And if we need help, they said that they would be happy to help us communicating to residents about water issues and water shortage, if that's something that we may be facing this summer. And me and Jay had a conversation earlier today about kind of what we could do to prepare and help educate residents if we need to start having more severe water restrictions.
Yeah, and I'm also thinking there might be time for an educational program for Minturn residents, what they can do to fireproof their homes better. Maybe you can get the district to work with the town on that, because I think this summer is going to be a doozy.
We're gonna get blasted with snow.
Did Birch Barron, I was hoping that maybe Birch could get us a Mag. If there's an emergency evacuation, we could get all of our citizens step 1, step 2, step 3, is if that goes into effect, they have what to do without waiting for the emergency services to come. Because I think everybody living in this valley should have that sheet right by their door, just so that they know when they get a call. So hopefully everybody's signed up for the emergency service that's available countywide. Because you can get an instant call about those kind of emergencies, and you can go look at the cheat sheet and know which way to go and so forth like that. So,
And I think I touched on, we are going to do a training with Birch's office for the staff. We're going to do the Eagle County Emergency Management Training. We're going to try to get that scheduled this spring. We are getting some quotes on better light bars and equipment for the public works vehicles so that we can have them mobilized in an emergency to do evacuation. And then also just for the regular events like Halloween. I think this next Halloween, we'd like to have 1 or 2 public works guys just at key intersections, because I know it's very dark and you cannot see, can't see people walking around. So we're trying to get a little bit more prepared to step up and provide that support if, we don't have those resources from the county because of transportation issues, emergency response issues, whatever.
and Core Transit is participating in those types of exercises and so forth too. So if we get a stack up of traffic, this could be very valuable as well. In other words, don't get in your car because the roads are jammed or whatever. Grab a bus, and that way you're getting more cars off the road and people out of the town. So
I think the key thing is just to make sure that at least at a staff level, we know kind of what the plan is and what we all need to do so that we can be ready to help inform residents when that comes, and then kind of go from there, I think. So thank you for bringing that up again. I think we do need to be better prepared.
Gotcha. Okay, anything else for Rob right now? Okay. Okay, we're going on to special presentations. We have a presentation on flavored tobacco products. I know Eagle has banned them. And basically we're going to have Chelsea and looking at the other name. Sorry, I wasn't quite ready for that. So, Chelsea, or
it worked out really serendipitously for you to forget Mandy because she wasn't able to join us. So, not forget Mandy, but today.
Thank you.
And I shared with you all the presentation. We have Cindy, I know online there might be needing a request for me to share directly from my screen. Oh, here we are. Excellent. That worked out well. That worked out well on your end. Let's see if my tech savviness can hold off here. All right. And if you don't mind, give me just a moment. I'd like to be able to do this with a presenter view. Sorry about this, y'all. Here we are. Okay. So yes, my name is Chelsea Venardini Carnoli. I am with our Eagle County Public Health and Environment Department. Thank you all so much for giving us a few moments of time here today. We really wanted to come and talk about the opportunity to update your existing tobacco retail license to see how we can incorporate some changes that reflect the changes in products that are made available through the tobacco industry. Mainly that looks like flavors. So really quick overview here. In Colorado, we have 40 plus counties and municipalities who have approved a tobacco retail license. Of course, this includes Minturn back in 2019. And then you see here, there is a 14 and growing number of our cities and towns throughout the state who have adopted a flavor ban to be included in their existing tobacco retail licenses. This is a really important next step to continue protecting, particularly our youth. Throughout our areas, Eagle County is no exception in our school district. Because what we're seeing is this wider spread availability of flavors, which we'll talk in some more detail about here soon. It's actually become a really great incentive for youth to start using at younger ages with more intense addiction habits. So what is the goal here with our flavor? That's much over. Not quite. Here's where I reference the hopefulness in my own technical skills.
Can Cindy help you?
Did that one?
Do you have it?
Oh, there might be a little lag, so
Okay.
bear with me.
Gotcha.
And I'm not known to be a slow talker, so you're welcome to do this at me if you need. So flavor policies, what am I talking about? You may have heard of vapes or like e-cigarettes. We also have things called like pouches, nicotine pouches. We have some images that can really show what that looks like, but these are becoming more and more widespread in popularity. The challenge when I talk about flavors is the flavors are things like strawberry and bubble gum. In our research, we've even found unicorn vomit flavor, which, speaking for myself, that's not something that's appealing to me, really. And as you can imagine, the tobacco industry has found new and pretty inventive ways to appeal to children. So what we know is that eliminating the sale of flavored tobacco products, it helps prevent youth from ever starting initiating use to begin with. Now, why this becomes important here at our Minturn level, we really have to become focused within our municipalities because the federal and the state level protections are set up in a way where there's quite a bit of legal loopholes. So the really powerful and very well-resourced legal teams within the tobacco industry are able to pick apart passage of any new ordinances at that federal and state level. You also may see a quote here from Governor Polis's office, who states, essentially, we want to see these changes and these more focused restrictions made at these localized levels. So that's why we are wanting to kind of go from town to town. Minturn, as mentioned, we had the town of Eagle passed in August. This is happening in our neighboring counties as well. Garfield County, Pitkin County, Summit, Lake. We're seeing this really spread throughout, especially our rural resort areas in Colorado. So some flavor highlights. These are quotes directly from leaders throughout the tobacco industry. I will not quote these word by word because it makes my stomach ache a little bit when I do so, but I will let you all have a look here at some of the ways that the tobacco industry has pretty intentionally set the path to target our youth specifically with the intention of early initiation and collecting as much money as possible throughout a lifespan based off of getting kiddos hooked when they're at a young age. So products, here's where we're giving some examples. What you'll see here in the far left are Zyn. These are nicotine pouches. These are very, very easy to conceal and use in our Eagle County School District youth, especially at the high school, and hearing from coaching staff at the schools, I think especially our athletes, because of the short-lived buzz that comes from use of these products. They are very well circulated throughout our schools. And what's pretty concerning about that, in addition to the addiction rates, in addition to the appeal of ease of use and the impact it has on the behavior of the kiddos, a typical Zyn pouch is about 6 milligrams of nicotine. Again, these are averages. The average use of a Zyn container is about half. That's that number you see there, 8 to 12 pouches. That level of consumption is equal to 3 packs of cigarettes. What you'll see on the bottom right corner are the cartridges from like e-cigarettes or vapes. That's equal to 2 or 1.5 to 2 of those cartridges of e-cigarettes. So we'll learn a little bit more about this later, but there is quite a bit of misinformation coming from the tobacco industry that tries to tout a harm reduction approach or a healthy alternative that's offered through these nicotine pouches or through e-cigarettes, vapes, and that's just not the reality of what these products are doing for our kiddos and for anyone who's using them. So going farther into the youth use, because as mentioned, bubblegum flavor is appealed to a pretty specific audience. We are seeing, as I've said, that really, really intense marketing toward the kids. It's working, including without any discrimination, our Eagle County School District youth. So it's much easier to get addicted considering the flavor, considering how easy it is to conceal these newer flavor products. About 81% who have ever used tobacco are starting with a flavored product. 93% of those e-cigarette users are starting with a flavor as well. So there's not the smoke of cigarettes. It's easier to hide and it tastes good. And one thing to add on that last slide is despite some misconceptions, there are still quite a very high percentage of our youth who are buying brick and mortar. So like Shop and Hop, any of our Eagle County or more brick and mortar retailers, there are still kiddos who are able to access by purchasing right there in stores. We wanted to go ahead and get ahead of some of the tobacco industry's tactics, as you see them called here, really misconceptions that are being spread by the tobacco industry directly in our own backyard. They did visit us in Eagle when we had our first reading. We wanted to get ahead of what some of that messaging is looking like. So to start with this harm reduction or that there's an opportunity for either smokeless or the oral nicotine pouches offering help for folks who want to quit. Some quotes are, "We are tobacco and harm reduction companies leading a public health movement." You can imagine how much we like that quote in our office. Another misconception that these are FDA authorized cessation products that are evidence-based. And then again, this smoke-free option is safer and a better option for nicotine use. So, of course, you guessed it, those are false. It's rebranding that we've seen time and time again from the tobacco industry. They're very nimble. They have the money and resources to be able to adapt their marketing to adjust to whatever the circumstances are, whatever the political climate might be, or whatever interest is from youth and adults throughout the United States. So this is simple rebranding. I don't know if anyone's ever seen those old advertisements from magazines of doctors suggesting pregnant women smoke cigarettes because it'll be good for their nerves. We're still in line. We're still in line with that type of approach. We also want to make sure and point out FDA authorization is very different than FDA approved, which is really important for a product that's claiming a health benefit, or at least minimization of a health impact. So that FDA authorization that is really touted on all of the conversations, presentations from the tobacco industry really that's essentially just you've been approved to sell something. So that does not mean the same thing as the as FDA approved cessation medications, which we do try to message and make sure that people are aware of for the time that they are ready to quit or cut down on their tobacco use. Next, and we saw this a lot in our Eagle Town presentations as we were going through the process for adding Flavor Band to their tobacco retail license. There is a really strong partnership that takes place with the tobacco industry and retailers, particularly our convenience stores, that is creating some concern and worry that there's going to be economic loss and that this is bad for our small business owners. Along with that, there is a messaging around the potential loss of like tobacco tax revenue after the passage of the existing tobacco retail licensure for us here in Minturn. That was back in 2019. So to address that, we actually don't have enough information to validate that. What we do have is Glenwood Springs is a great example, is a neighboring municipality who has had a few years under their belt of a flavor ban. And the reality is the only shuttering of doors of a small business has happened if it's a vape specific shop, which, as you all know, does not exist in Minturn unless there's a really successful secret underground situation. So that is just not the reality that we're seeing in our data. And of course, we're wanting to make sure we watch that closely because we want to communicate it clearly. And when we're talking about tax revenue impacts, again, going back to your existing tobacco retail license, we don't just have enough time to really be able to understand a trend. But what we're seeing is, yes, an impact to that tax revenue. What we're able to know right now is about 20 to 30% loss of revenue for that tobacco tax. Of course, depending, and Minturn is a pretty unique spot given the one retailer that you all have and the diversified retail opportunities within the shop and hop. That being said, it is important to note the difference in health outcomes once we do eliminate the addictive products that are on the shelf, especially starting at a young age. It does end up having that preventative spending impact in the long run. And again, wanting to point out that the response from the tobacco industry was very strong. Again, as I've mentioned, when we had our Town of Eagle presentation, the tobacco industry did fly in a small group of folks to come in and counter present the points, making claims that we pointed out earlier in this presentation. Here are a couple examples of the things that were submitted and presented to try to continue sale of flavored tobacco products throughout the Town of Eagle. And finally, just wanting to provide a more robust update. We're also suggesting that along with the flavor ban addition to the existing tobacco retail license, we add some new definitions. And this really just helps keep some of these new and kind of ever-changing products that are offered under the same umbrella of restriction based off of language in the tobacco retail license. So pretty standard need for just updating definitions there. We also have some recommendations and best practices around things like marketing, discounts, and what that looks like. Of course, having an opportunity to buy one pack, get another free, so on and so forth, is something that encourages further use. And so those are things that we have some recommendations to put parameters around. This, again, unique circumstances for Minturn here. But a comprehensive flavor ban addition to a tobacco retail license would also consider things like distance of retailers to youth serving organizations and capping the amount of tobacco retail licenses permitted within a city limit. So these are some suggestions to make that comprehensive flavor ban addition to the existing tobacco retail license. So all this being said, I want to thank you again for your time. And what we, with our public health and environment team of Eagle County, would like to leave you all with a call to action for is to consider updating your existing tobacco retail license to include a flavor ban. And that is with the consideration of the highly addictive and direct marketing that is targeted toward our youth. And it's working really well. With that, as I mentioned before, there's some comprehensive options we can include, like the proximity capping, definitely those definition updates. And we are happy to do this. We being our public health team, we can come back to a work session if that's something that would be helpful for you all. We also are prepared with templates and a fantastic group of folks who are able to provide us with like redlined ordinance suggestions to make it as easy as possible for town admin. And happy to come back and answer any other questions that you all may have.
All right, questions for Randy? Well, my understanding is Town of Eagle has passed the ban. Is that correct? Where's the county's position on this?
You know, it's going back to that resourcefulness. What we found across the state is that if we were to try to implement a county-wide flavor ban, there's just the most minor language that would allow opportunity for a counter lawsuit, for legal action from the tobacco industry in a way that the county attorneys across the state have been very hesitant to pursue. So we did explore the option this fall at that mayor and managers meeting. You may remember a very brief update from Jeannie McQueenie, Commissioner McQueenie. We did have a conversation with our county attorney to say, is there any way we'd be willing to give it a try? And we were told not at this time. However, I will say some kind of exciting news is Pickett County, just last week, their Board of Health approved a recommendation to go before their Board of County Commissioners. And we might see Pickett County as the first county in the state of Colorado to approve a county-wide flavor ban.
And what is this language that the attorney is so afraid of? Just these loophole at the federal level piece?
It's something, I wish I could remember the specificity of it, but it's something along the lines of may versus shall. I mean, very minute. Yes.
No, I understand.
Yeah. Yes. The type that, you pull your hair out and realize the law degree is something well earned.
So what is the likelihood that if we did pass a ban to the one outlet that we have here in town, is tobacco going to come look for us?
Well, it's hard to say with confidence what to expect, but the swiftness and reaction that came with the Town of Eagle was pretty surprising. So there would be a really good chance that what could be anticipated if council chooses to move forward with a first reading, that tobacco industry representatives would come most likely with messaging that I described before, that this is a harm reduction product and it's great for kids and people who want to quit smoking. And then also with some of those kind of scare tactics of what about your tobacco tax revenue and shop and hop will never survive, these types of things. So there's a good chance.
So back to the county commission and county attorney, why do they feel that respective municipalities have a better success rate dealing with may, shall, should?
I don't have a precise answer for that outside of the jurisdiction, like the scope of jurisdiction coming from the county and the legality of the unincorporated areas of the county. What I will say is, and what we're hopeful of, is Pickett County, if Pickett County were to pass, that would set precedent for some of our other counties throughout the state to be able to trickle down. And our Eagle County did have interest, but I think that legal risk is one that was just a little too nervous to take. But the approach so far that we've seen, Summit County is a really good example of this, is when we go municipality to municipality, then that influence can create some strength and base.
But if you have a proposed template for a resolution, I'd be interested in seeing that.
Fantastic.
Mike actually lives in Glenwood Springs. I know they've had experience with this. From a legal point of view, what is the risk to the town if we do ban it?
Well, the tobacco industry could sue you.
Mhm.
That would be a problem.
I'm not aware of that happening yet.
We're big fans of multiple litigation efforts anyway.
Because
You know, I know that Shop and Stop makes millions a year off their flavored tobacco products. It's very hard for me to see that Minturn is a likely target for the tobacco industry.
Mm.
Um,
Well, I despise the tobacco industry. They're very cynical. They hid all this detrimental health
What happened to all these?
information from the public for decades until they finally got sued into it. And I'm not sure. Speaking from the town, I would vote for it because the idea of a 10-year-old going in there and being able to have what was it, unicorn vomit flavored tobacco?
And then
Just the name of that, it's kind of intriguing though.
Well,
But those kind of things, and we'll have a discussion with council and see how they feel about it.
And it seems like, it's not like we're alone. It's, Denver, Boulder,
I was going to say, all these Summit County municipalities,
you know.
what legal actions have occurred in Philip Morris against them?
I also I'm not aware of any legal action taken against the municipality. I know Denver did have some touch and go, but I don't believe that came from a legal standpoint. I think that came from more messaging.
The right thing to do.
And we can provide templates, redlining done really on behalf of the town to make it as simple as a process as possible. We just earlier today, my colleague and I also from Eagle County Public Health met with Town of Eagle to talk through how could we be supportive with any enforcement questions? What does that look like? How could we also provide any kind of template or communication for retailer to talk through, okay, here's what this actually looks like and what it means on a day-to-day basis. So we try to make sure that we're supportive as possible in providing information, any kind of like technical assistance for what implementation looks like and so on and so forth.
I'm all for it, and I would see if I would ask to draft it up to match Eagles, and
I'm all
have
for it,
a
but I'd still
discussion.
like to see the county give me a better answer as to why they're doing a dance.
Well, the city.
It sounds like
Well,
it has
the county,
something to
Do
do
it.
with
I
the
mean,
jurisdiction.
We'll all do it. I mean, what?
Yeah.
With the jurisdiction of unincorporated county versus jurisdiction of municipality.
So would council want to have them send us staff information and templates and so forth, so they.
Yeah, we don't need to reinvent the wheel like Lynn asked.
We'll come for 2 years.
Yeah, because I don't know if we have four enough to move forward at all, but I would definitely vote for the ban. Is there any other definites out there?
Oh, I would vote for it. I just think that we probably should talk to, do a little cooperation with the guy at the shop to talk before we just automatically pass it, let them know that this is what we're looking at and just to kind of be transparent with it.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, if you can transmit the information to Rob and Jay and Mike, maybe Mike, you probably don't. Didn't Glenwood Springs have a big issue with that?
It passed, it's also passed in smaller jurisdictions in Garfield County than just Glenwood, so.
Okay.
It would be nice if Shop and Hop could stop selling flavored tobacco and start selling like fresh vegetables or eat in town.
The owner might even be in favor of, this,
Yeah.
we just don't know.
Yeah,
We don't know.
And we have seen, and we really do try hard to make sure that we're being collaborative with our small businesses and not alienating and not wanting to come in a very imposing and scary manner. Because exactly as you mentioned, this is something that impacts our community here. And so it's not uncommon to have that shared investment in youth and shared investment in health. Maybe not to that degree of public health, which you're hired. We could put a desk next to ours any moment. If you can pull off that vegetable situation, that'd be fantastic. But yes, we do want to be as collaborative as possible.
So I guess there are a couple of ways that you can approach this. You can move to a licensing scheme to where you license sellers of tobacco products, similar to how we do liquor licensing.
We do that.
Do we already do
We have
that?
a permit for it.
A permit, but it doesn't come to the council.
Yeah, but I mean, the first time I did, the renewals don't. Sorry, we actually have two stores that sell the liquor license, the liquor store, Shop and Hop. You mentioned Shop and Hop, we can get Terry on the phone really quick. He actually called me today because he needs to renew that license. And because we have a town license, he has to have the town license to show the state he has followed the rules. And we can, I mean, our tobacco, our cigarette tax is about $130 a month that we get from the state. It's not, I mean, but that doesn't tell you that they sold 100 cartons of cigarettes. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but if you've seen the price of cigarettes, that's enough to make me stop.
So if we have a licensing regime already in place, it would be, I think, a pretty simple addition of a ban on certain types of products from being sold from Minturn licensed outlets.
Would that go through the same public?
Yes, it would be it'd be an ordinance, you're amending your code and it would go through two readings. Yeah. All right, so we should look at Eagle and someone at the public health office will take a look at our code, or what's the next step?
Yeah, we can send you over a redlined copy of it that includes the updated language of an ordinance and make it as simple as possible.
Well, again,
And you can kind of pick.
we already have some code provisions on tobacco, so factor that into what you put together.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, we can do some.
Do you remember when that was passed? How long that's been?
20, I think you said earlier, it was like 19,
I think 19
2019 or 2020.
could be off. Yeah, it maybe it wouldn't affect.
All right, well, we'll work on getting an ordinance prepared for you all.
Great.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Mhm.
Right, continuance.
Okay, we're off to business items now. First order of business is the Eagle County School District preliminary subdivision plat request for continuance. Evidently, they
Well, I have a request in connection with that. I'm wondering when, my understanding is it goes to PUZ and then it comes to us. And I know it's going to involve a plat. If they could include some photographs so that it's possible to really understand where they're putting the development. I think that would be very helpful. It sounds like the basis for continuance is that the PUC has to go out there and look because they can't tell from the plat where in this very large area and with no landmarks next to it, like showing that green common area where they're actually talking about. So if we could have that information, I think it would make everybody's job a lot easier.
I believe planning commission will have all of that information and then they will review it and send a recommendation to us and then we will.
Because from what I've understood, that hasn't been provided so far.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we can't see it until after we get the
Right.
recommendation. Yeah, okay. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think there was some confusion. I think, members of the planning commission are directed to, at their convenience at their own time, to visit a site that may be subject to a petition, but not to do so with other members and not to discuss it with other members. I would say the same is probably true of the council. If you feel the need to go out there and see a site that's subject to something that you're going to make a decision on, you can do so. Please do it prior to the hearing. Do it, by yourself.
But it doesn't do any good to see the site without knowing where the development is going to be on the site.
Some like they have little stakes and like.
I've seen the
future-
site.
Yeah.
I think we all have.
Yeah.
And once they started the
Where on the site.
yeah, we could have done it before they entered it into the process, but now they're in the process. So
Is-
They were directed by the planning staff to visit the site prior, and then it was brought up at the meeting that some had not. And somehow that would, evolve into the procedure, which should not be the case. If you're directed to visit the site before, then please do that before the hearing. And I would say the same for council, but I will talk with the applicant and staff about incorporating some photography, maybe at some key locations so you can coordinate the site plan and the plat to like where that actually is on the site. I can understand because they didn't do conceptual buildings or there's not really aerial. It's just a site plan at this point.
So we do want to keep the process moving because that that project could be very helpful if we've got a full building permit in the next coming few months. As far as the cost to our citizens.
All right, so we're gonna stay focused on the topic of the continuance that's been requested.
Yeah. So anyway.
I'll make a motion that we request a continuance on the Malloy Park subdivision application and continue it until February 18th, 2026.
Second.
Sorry, Lou, second. Okay, second. Motion by Gusty, second by Kate, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next order of business is resolution number 4, series 2026, resolution and letter of intent to appoint a bond counsel.
Yes, so I think we talked about this at the previous meeting or the meeting before that about getting bond counsel. Our municipal advisor, Troy Bernberg, reached out to several firms. You see the quotes that were there. We had an initial conversation with Mr. Tom Peltz at Kutak Rock. I believe that was 2 weeks ago, and Mr. Sawyer was on that call. I thought that went really well. He's very knowledgeable. I think he's been doing this for 30 plus years and provided a lot of insights that I thought were helpful. One of the things too, just that one of the things we talked about was having a potential to have like a drawdown type, if we went with private financing, and Tom provided some information that those have been kind of uncommon lately, but that's in our solicitation that's currently out. I know that we've been getting some feedback on that solicitation, and there's been some back and forth between Jay and Troy about just providing some additional information to banks that may be interested, but we hope to have that for you at the next meeting. Is there any questions about the bond counsel or anything you'd like to provide?
I would just mention, I've worked with Tom Peltz before. He's incredibly knowledgeable and efficient at what he does. Compared to his colleagues or other competitors, he's a good deal. So
One question, if we do go private financing, do we still need to have the bond counsel? Yeah, answered it. I just wanted to confirm that.
it takes on a different structure. So because with private financing, it may not necessarily be the issuance of bonds in the traditional sense of how that's done with Colorado Water and Power. But to navigate the complexities of the lending relationship, Tom deals with that stuff every day, and he'll be much more efficient at reviewing those documents and asking me to do that.
Okay, thanks.
So on that note, anybody else got anything?
Nope.
So I make a motion.
Low bid is the one that's recommended.
Make a motion to approve Town of Minturn Resolution number 4, Series 2026, resolution appointing bond counsel for the Minturn Water Treatment Plant project.
I'll second that.
The motion by Tom, second by Gusty, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Cool. Next item is resolution number 5, series 2026, a resolution expressing the formal appreciation to the town of Redcliffe for public works staffing assistance. Like,
As you know, several months ago, we entered into an IGA with the town of Redcliffe to provide some public works support help. And we had Billy Martinez over here for several months, and that was really, really valuable, really meaningful to us. And I think just having him here to help was one thing, but also as kind of a bit of a mentor to some of our newer public works staff, it was really invaluable. So he's no longer working with us now. He's kind of back up in Redcliffe, but we hope that maybe we'll see him again someday.
cool. Now that we're fully staffed, how are the staff staying busy?
I think there's a lot of things, you know, as you maybe saw, they got the bridge painted the other day. They've been doing a lot of repairs on equipment. Just I think a lot of things that, you know, we kind of had sitting on the sidelines. I think there's still much to do in getting ready. I know that Mike is working on getting a reservation for a street sweeper for spring and just kind of lining a lot of different things up. So I know we do have a lot to keep them busy.
Mhm.
Thanks to Melissa as well, who is the town manager of Redcliffe. And it's so nice to get cooperation. And we used to be at Redcliffe's level as far as services and everything, and we would always get a fire truck given to us from Vail and all these kind of things that are hand-me-downs. And so we look forward to being able to help Redcliffe whenever they need help as well. So.
Give them a gift certificate to Mangoes and some fun park.
So with that,
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution number 5, series 2026, a resolution expressing formal appreciation to the town of Redcliffe for public work staffing assistance.
Second.
motion by Gusty, second by Kate. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next, okay, that's all for our business items. Going on to discussion direction items.
We'll have a
This one?
resolution.
Resolution number 6. Oh, we don't really need that one, do we? Yeah, we do. Resolution number 6, series 2026, a resolution authorizing an application for a DOLA EIAF grant for a water treatment plant.
We did have a meeting with Kate, our regional rep from DOLA, with Deborah Figueroa, who's our consultant, our grant writer. And, you know, there's not as much funds available, but I think that we do have a strong case to make to the state for EIF funds for this project. A lot of the priorities in the scoring I included in the resolution. I think we can make a strong case, and I think we should submit.
And
Great. Thumbs up, all right.
and so this will also need some an understanding that we want to get this grant in the cycle now. And once again, that grant could come in for us, but it's SRF.
Oh, yes. Thank you for bringing that up. So, and that's one thing that's in the staff memo that's key to understand is that if, you know, we go for this grant, we would have, it would pull us out of this current SRF cycle. And if we want to do SRF, we had to reapply in the summer because those funds would need to be considered prior to application. So I think as long as you're supportive of that.
I move to approve resolution number 6, series 2026, resolution authorizing application for energy and impact assistance fund grant funding, committing to the required local match and affirming community need, project readiness, and local priority for the water treatment plant project.
Second.
Motion by Lynn, second by Tom. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Now we're up to discussion items.
This first one, I just provided you a memo. We've been having some back and forth with the EPA, who is facilitating the $3 million in congressionally directed spending. We're trying to make sure that we get reimbursed for the funds that we've spent for engineering. One key thing that came to my understanding in one of the most recent emails from Matthew Mullins with EPA is that, hey, if we decide to use any of these dollars for construction, then we will be held to the same requirements that we'd be held to with SRF, which would include the Buy American, prevailing wage requirements, things of that nature. I am going to have a meeting with him next week about the options for some flexibility for how we could use the remainder of funds, approximately $900,000 for other work that's not related to construction, as long as the council's supportive. But I just wanted to make sure that was communicated to you, that we're all on the same page as far as that information.
Yeah, thank you.
So, yeah, and that would be covering, for instance, let's say further engineering meetings with Jared or something like that. Just trying to come up with what we would do.
One of the things that Matt clarified was that no, we probably could not use these funds for engineering that's related to construction, but he's working with some other communities to use that for other planning and engineering efforts that could be outside of that project. One of the things that we will need to have a conversation about in the coming months is the replacement of tank number 2. That would be a good opportunity to use those funds. That is a steel bolted tank. It has some issues. It's going to need to be replaced at some point in time in the near future. So that could be a project that we could use those funds for.
So that would be considered a construction project?
It's no,
Just for engineering design work?
Oh,
No.
Okay.
We could also apply those funds to construction. It just would mean that a tank replacement project would also have to be by American requirements, prevailing wage, which we could look at for a tank replacement.
I think it might be easier than the plan.
Basically, we're going to have to finance the whole 11+ million for the water treatment plant. So far, we have no grant funds.
well, the money we got, the 3 million, 2 of it went to engineering, so that's covered on the water treatment plant. And then the 1 million would cover another project like Rob's talking about with the tank. I brought up maybe even looking at something for the wells because we got told that the wells were, not meeting their capacity and
I'm not saying that we aren't able to use it for our public works projects. I'm just saying that as regards the cost of the water treatment plant per se,
yeah, for the
that
900.
that 11 million, whatever it is, that's what we're going to need to finance.
Yeah, the 900 can't go towards that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good.
For 12 million.
So, yeah, it's very helpful.
Any other questions or concerns for staff at this point?
And do the figures that have been provided to us on Jim Mann reflect that?
The figures for
What?
our cost estimates?
Yes.
I think we're still waiting for some updated on the 90%, but we still are anticipating that we're around the $11 to $12 million total cost range.
That's being financed.
Well, that's not the total.
Thought it showed something being subtracted from 3 million being subtracted from.
That's one of the things that we need to talk about at the next meeting is what cash on hand that we intend to use and what we'd anticipate we'd finance. But I don't think we'd be financing the whole amount. We do have some cash on hand and
So we have 3 million cash on hand. That doesn't include any of the money from the federal grant fund.
There's cash on hand in the enterprise fund that, we've built up over time to save for, whatever need that may arise. I think the question that we've been trying to figure out, Jay and Troy and I, is what amount of that could be used for this capital project and what would be smart to make sure that the enterprise has enough funds in reserve, but that we reduce the cost of this project.
Some of that is these funds. That's what I'm trying to clarify.
There's cash on hand in the enterprise fund that's been saved over time, which is separate from the 3 million that was awarded from congressionally directed, which we have not yet received $1 of.
Okay.
Just to clarify.
And then we were supposed to get it in January, right?
We're supposed to.
But we've been having challenges getting those reimbursed, but that's one of the things, that's why we've been in communication with the EPAs to try to get reimbursed for the money we've already spent.
Greenland is free prior to things. So. See it for a while.
I don't have any comments on that.
Yeah.
I maybe suggest involving John Bolt quite a bit on a lot of this too, because if we don't go SRF, he might be able to help us out with some of this project. GC in it because he did that for Leadville.
I expect that we will have the documents for the public bid for the construction portion of this coming in the next few weeks, and we can share those with you and talk about those details and kind of give you the timeline for bid.
Okay, and then that's something to include John on too with it.
Yeah, of course.
See if he's something that's even interested in helping with.
And then once those RFPs are in, we'll start seeing what our real numbers are.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yeah.
That'd be good.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully that'll be in February, early March, something.
Any day now, I expect.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Next, we have a discussion item on the status of the Highlands parcels.
Yeah, I put together a memo that kind of covers most of the discussions that have had at council meetings since that initial presentation from Eagle County Open Space and Eagle Valley Land Trust. I tried my best to go through the minutes. I think in the memo it makes it clear it's not necessarily exhaustive, but of all those meetings, I tried to go through and see where did the conversation came up, what did we say, what did we do, and how did it happen. I know that we wanted to kind of maybe had a discussion about this, and I guess I didn't really have any other comments other than what's been provided to you in the memo.
I'd like to thank you for putting together such a great timeline in a memo. I mean, honestly, you couldn't have done any better than that. That's a great job. Thank you, Rob.
Well, thank you for that.
Okay, so do we have anybody online that are zooming in for this discussion?
It looks like we do. Yes.
Good.
Terry.
Hi, Terry. Terry, can you hear us?
Yeah. Hi. Hi, everybody. Terry Armistead, 1632 South Main. Can you hear me?
We sure can.
Oh, thanks for the opportunity to talk. And I read the memo, so I just wanted the opportunity to comment. The memo looks, I too went back through those meetings, and the memo looks pretty, it looks like it has a lot of the information, but I think what's missing is where this conversation started, and that is with the open house in January of last year of 2025, when the council engaged the public on the Highlands parcel. So yes, Gusty, it is pretty comprehensive, except for it's missing the key piece, which is council engaged the public in an open house and then also in a survey. So I did write an email to you guys, and I've spoken to several of you, if not all of you, either in text. Maybe Eric, I didn't talk to you. I'm sorry, but either in text or on the phone, and just had questions about where we're at with exploring selling the Highlands parcel. I watched, and I apologize because obviously I wasn't at a lot of those meetings. And you know, that's the way it always is. I know I sat in your seat, so I can imagine you must be frustrated with people like me that show up at the 11th hour. But I did get a chance to watch that last meeting where Pete Seibert and his coworker or a partner was there while you were exploring the marketing of the property, I think it was. But Lynn Feiger said in that meeting, she said she thought you guys should explore or bring back in the public on this. And every single one of you said you already did that. And so I think that you missed an opportunity there with what Lynn was saying, which was to engage the public again before you have a buyer standing there at your door going, here's $13 million. Because I've talked to each of you, and I think that, and I'm sorry if I'm going over my 5 minutes or 3 minutes, whatever. But I think you missed an opportunity. And that's all I'll say with that is that you guys know how it is. Sometimes it's crickets in there. But you know, when it's important to somebody, like this is very important to me. I listened to part of that meeting last week about Malloy Park, and I know you guys, it's quasi judicial, so you guys can't discuss it, but there is a pretty big amount of housing proposed out there, and you're leaving nowhere for the wildlife to go. I mean, there's nowhere else. And there will be a lot of problems. So I did have a question, a clarification, because in the memo, Rob, you said that all has been done is authorizing public marketing of the property. So if it's not, I'm just confused on that. So if it's not on the market yet, what does authorizing public marketing mean? I was unclear on that.
The listing, so, and I think one thing that's important, and it's I've heard it from several people, so there's obviously, I think, a bit of confusion, is that the listing of the parcel, the authorization of the contract to list it, doesn't necessarily, I mean, it doesn't tie the council or the town to any specific action at all. And I think some people saw the listing, just based on the conversations I had with them, saw the listing as like the council saying, yeah, we're going to sell it to a private buyer. But I wouldn't characterize the listing as making that action. I think the council is still very open-minded about what may come. I kind of saw the listing in moving to a broker as a way for the town to try to take a step forward as far as figuring out, what is its private market value. Because I know we kind of had discussions back and forth about, there's different perspectives about what that value is. And I think we're still the door is very much open for Eagle County Open Space and Eagle Valley Land Trust. And that was included in the listing contract, that if the town chooses to enter into a deal with them, that the broker would receive certain value for the services they provided. The property is not on the MLS yet, but I did talk with Brent Reimel last week, and they did aerial photography. So I'm assuming at any point this week or next week, it will show up on the MLS. But I just saw the step that the council took for the listing is just kind of a step forward to go, let's figure out what the private market thinks, which could be helpful and informative no matter what choice is made after that. So I hope that provides some clarity. But I guess what I was trying to say is, we're not entitled to any decision. One last thing, and then I won't say any more, is that I think one thing that's always frustrated me sometimes when you're a member of the public or a citizen is when you're asked to provide input, but you're not quite sure, like, what are the different options. And I thought that maybe us moving forward with the listing would give us better options to then go back to the public and say, well, this person wants to pay X and they want to do Y. What do you think of that? Or, you know what I mean? And I think sometimes it's hard to engage in a public conversation when it's overly open, because you're like, well, what are the choices really? So sometimes I think, I try to help when you're dealing with public policy of lining up choices for the public, so then we can have a more productive conversation about the impacts of those choices.
I see your point there, and I know, Earl, I apologize for the back and forth discussion, and I do see your point. The land has no zoning on it, so much like, and I was involved in this parcel with the settlement process and many executive sessions with Battle Mountain, and have been clear, very, very, very clear with everybody that was there with me, that this parcel should be put in conservation. And so everybody already knows how I stand, everybody that was there. But I think that what you're opening yourself up to is much like the 100 block downtown, where we were like, I don't know what we want, but we know we don't want that. So you're opening yourself up with no zoning, no covenant on the land. I mean, you're kind of just either what you're saying is we want to sell it on the open market to some rancher, and they're going to come in and put fences up, and there's no guiding forces here for any ranch owner. And once somebody owns a property, hello, neighbors up on the hill, they do whatever they want on their property. I mean, you're not going to be driving up there on a private road. Police, we don't have code enforcement. So if they want to put a fence up and those elk can't get through there, they're going to do that. And so those are my fears. And I just want to urge the council, you guys have an opportunity to put a land covenant on this land. You have an opportunity to put some guiding zoning on this land. And I think you do. Mike might know more, but I do think we're just, once you set the ball in motion by listing this property, you're closing the deal. I get it that all of you have to vote on it, but nobody's going to stare money in the face and go, yeah, no, sorry, we don't want that. So, you're going to take the money and run, and this part of Southtown is going to be the worst for the wear. So that's all I wanted to say. I hope that you include the public more in the future. And I think before you listed this, another open house to let people know that you were going to do that. I mean, when I first got on council in 2016 and I stayed on council for 8 years, our biggest problem was transparency and communication. And I would say that it's still the same. It's really hard to get the word out. And you guys are the ones that are committed and sitting up there. But I mean, I've got somebody's sick. I mean, I can't make the meetings, and I appreciate everything you do. I should have been sitting where you are, but I'm sitting in the public asking you to really, really, really take this seriously. It's going to change the face of that Southtown area. And it's all just for $1.
Terry, I love you and respect you so much, but I couldn't more strongly disagree that my vote, and I can probably look up and down this row, is any sort of foregone conclusion on this. I'm 100% open and wanting to make the right decision based on feedback from.
And it's important to understand we're going through a long process. And we've got to understand sometime, hopefully within the next 2 years, we'll have a much better understanding of what the debt service is going to be for our citizens. And there's so many options we've been going through. You understand that, Terry, and we are going to look at what the debt service would be. We're going to look at what our options are. It may be a Highlands parcel, or we may have a guy that wants to buy both parcels and he wants to do a ranch up there or something. Well, we would sit down and negotiate and see what he wants to do, and then we may very well say no because he wants to do 6 ranch houses. I mean, I wouldn't feel like saying yes to that myself, but. And we're still going through all the information. We're all open-minded. And I appreciate you showing up and giving us your input. I was hoping for more people, but we'll continue to get the word out as best we can.
I appreciate it, you guys. And thank you. And Brian, I know we did talk about that on the phone, and that you would be open-minded. And I just hope that you include CPW, because I've had multiple conversations with Devin Duval, and he has said that the only option that is good for the wildlife out there is nothing. It's a conservation easement. A ranch is not preferable to nothing. So I just wanted to put that out there, but thank you guys for letting me talk. I appreciate it. I know I took.
Maybe CPW needs to give us some money on that too.
Thank you, Terry. I think Lynn wants to talk, wants to.
Public open or just Zoom?
Yeah.
Yeah, please. Sorry.
Yeah. Then I have to clarify a few things.
Do you want to do that first?
No.
Vintage 253 Pine Street. I just want to say thank you for Terry for your concerns. And my question is, why have we not been updated on anything that's going on with CPW, Eagle Valley Land Trust, or Eagle County Land Trust? Have they been back to us at all? I agree that should have been open to the public again, but I haven't heard anything about those 3 organizations. And I was here at that first meeting. Since then, I have heard nothing about what they've come back to talking about, or if we've talked to them, or what.
I think one thing to clarify too is I met with them in the summer. We hiked the Highlands parcels, and they told me, well, we could work on something, but we want to know what the ask is, which I assumed was they want to know, like, well, what do you guys want dollar wise? And I think that's an important aspect of this discussion is like the money. It's hard to talk about, the options if you don't know like what a private buyer would be willing to pay, what Eagle Valley Land Trust and Open Space can bring to the table. I think that's a very relevant point that's often missing is like, what value are we talking about? And I think the issue is that we didn't go back to them with an ask because we have differing opinions about what its market value may be. And so If the council would like to provide directive, like we could go back and say, this is the dollar amount we would want to see.
Actually, we do have a dollar amount that we're going to be listing it for.
That's true.
That gives us a dollar amount, and we can decide as a council whether we're willing to discount that for a public conservation group. But we've never, ever had that discussion. And I share Terry's concern that the way it's being marketed, we get a big number back and everybody's going to jump on the big number. It's going to be very hard psychologically to turn that down. And we may end up making a decision that we're going to regret, and future generations are going to regret a great deal. I mean, this is a very, very special property. It's being marketed as a legacy property, but it's Minturn, the town's main legacy property. And I just think we should be now considering more seriously options that will protect it a little better than what we have been currently considering. I know we're all panicked about the amount of money that's involved in the for the cost of the water treatment plant, but I do think we still need more public input. And one of the issues with this discussion is I'm not sure that the public is still very aware that's even going on today. It's sort of in there, but we're not publicizing it very much. So that's my position.
To Lynn's question, though, I have not heard. So we never gave them an ask. We've never had that discussion, but I've not heard back from them. And I did run into Devin prior to the Planning Commission last week, and I gave him my town cell phone number because he said, "Hey, we want to continue that conversation." I said we'd be happy to have that conversation, and me and Mike talked about that yesterday about reaching back out to them. But no, to answer your question, no.
Well, no, but
Just a minute. Mike's been waiting to speak. So.
well, multiple parts of this, but get to Lynn's question. Devin said at the P&Z before the P&Z last week, "Oh, have you heard from Eagle County Open Space?" I said, "No, nobody's contacted us." And he said, "Oh, I should circle back with them." And after a couple days passed without hearing anything, I called Devin, left him a message, and we've heard nothing back. So they know we're willing to talk. They know we want to talk.
Well,
They need to know they know what the property's listed for. They need to come to the town with an offer. It's like you said, Lynn, if the council wants to discount the value of that property, they need to come to us with an amount of money that they think they can pull together. We can't magically reach into their heads and their budgets and say, "Oh, well, you can come up with $3.8 million. They need to figure that out and come to the table.
So we need to revisit facts. So a couple things here. Just as I texted back and forth with Terry, all the way back to the January meeting as discussed in the survey. And we've said this time and time again. The fact of the matter is all the facts, to include how much open land would pay, how much a private buyer would pay, et cetera, are not out there. I am sorry that over the years, our predecessors in indecision kicked the can down the road on the water treatment plant, but here we are. So to the point of being fully transparent to the public, that's exactly what we want to do. All of the facts, as Rob has stated before, to include, we have no problem, just as Brian denoted, and no, we're not going to take the money and run. But the fact of the matter is every resident needs to understand the financial impact they, as an individual resident, may absorb for a very long time if we don't take the money and run, or any form of money, regardless of the source that it comes from, to offset costs fact. Those numbers and all those possibilities need to be out there for the public to have a say. It is wasting everybody's flipping time to go over and over in this without having answers, because every single time we have this discussion, and then what? I don't know that answer yet. I don't know that answer yet. That's nobody's fault. We need all the numbers in front of people so they have an idea. My confusion also is there was a strong push to get with Slifer because of the amount of money they put forward that they thought they could get for this property. So to me, it's somewhat hypocritical all of a sudden turn around and go, well, wait a minute. There was no intent of that at all. There absolutely is. There absolutely is. From all sources. And then the public, as noted by Mike previously, there will be a working group process in the process, not something above and beyond that gets slapped on there that there's in a public advisory group. And the public will have an opportunity ad nausea to make input when they have all the facts. And that includes the costs that will be incurred by household for the water treatment plant. By household, make a decision. Let us know. That's our job to represent the residents of this town.
So when that offer comes for, let's say, 12 million and with a 3-week or for a deadline for
Closing.
or to turn it down, how much public impact
That's
public input are we going to squeeze into that, and how much consideration are we going to give to what restrictions we want to impose on this particular property during such a short period of time? And that's the reality down the road.
But if we ever get somebody interested in selling that, they know they're buying it from a town. And so there's all these things that have to happen before that sale goes fine. It's not like a 3-week closing. It's like a 6-month closing because we got like tons of things that have to happen, right?
No, but they're going to put as much pressure on us to close as fast as possible.
right, but just as that's a hypothetical.
Everything is hypothetical here. That's how it's most likely to come down.
I got it, but to circle back to Brian's point, we have stated from the start, we are not discounting any option. We just need to know all the options. And the town residents need to know all the options. That's it. And then input, just as Terry put in, that's her position. Lynn has her position. I have mine. Brian has his. You need to know what that is.
I guess there's maybe just like confusion about the process then, right? Like I don't think
That's what Mike was waiting.
Yeah.
Talk about the
No.
process.
Enlighten us.
Okay,
Now enters the lawyer.
you have signed a listing agreement with a realtor.
Mhm.
That listing agreement goes for a year. And it's going to be listed in the MLS at a certain purchase price with, I think, 2 restrictive conditions. One is about access and the other one is about,
Water going across off the one property for the other one.
well,
Easement.
so the Bolts Lake easement, but also the little trail that cuts the corner. Okay.
That's right.
Once it's on the MLS, which you're now obligated to put it on the MLS because you signed a listing agreement. If someone comes to you and says, I will pay you cash at your asking price and comply with the conditions in the MLS that you've put in there, you have to sell that to them. You have no choice.
Okay.
Well, I mean, you can, you'll get sued.
That question previously and was told otherwise. So I would not have supported that under that circumstances. But
Now, the way that this folds out is that the property is in a holding zone. It has no uses by right on it. So nobody is going to come and offer you $11 million. to buy a property that has no defined uses. And so the way that the contract will be drafted is that someone will say, well, I will pay, and maybe it's the asking price, or maybe it is something less than that. But they are going to want a period of time in which to do due diligence. And that due diligence is going to include, for any sane purchaser, a robust period of time in which to get zoning on the property and potentially to go through site plan review if they have a site plan in mind. And those are public processes. So the town will approve the contract. You will make a decision kind of wearing the business cap as the council. And that contract will then, I would think, give them at least 6 months, probably longer, to work through that process. And then you are going to put on your regulator cap, and your regulator cap requires that you adhere to the same public processes and public inputs as any other proposed land use within the town. And you kind of have to put outside your head that you as the town have a contract for this property. You have to evaluate it based upon the standards in your code and the relevant comments of your public, and determine if land use approvals can be granted for that property consistent with what the buyer is asking for. And that, again, will not happen quickly. It's going to have to, it's a zoning ordinance. It will go, there will be pre-application meetings with the town planning staff. There will be discussions about potential zoning options and what it would look like. And then it will be noticed in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission, and there will be 1 or more hearings on it in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission. That'll make its way to the council. It'll be noticed for 2 readings. In the middle of this, because it's zoning, we may choose to have a charrette or some kind of workshop, the public are invited to. Surveys could be done as part of a public process. And at the end of it, you will make a decision based on your code if the zoning request and the site plan review request is appropriate for that property. But again, what you signed up for is to market the property. That will entail hopefully there will be a buyer that wants to come forward. Because again, nobody is going to buy the property without zoning, at least no private entity is going to do that. You're going to get to discuss the specific terms of a proposed contract that they bring to you. And you can decide if you are willing to enter into the contract upon the terms that are proposed by a specific buyer. And that does not in any way rule out some consortium of public entities or conservation entities for coming and making an offer to the town. We specifically put in the listing agreement that the broker compensation is less if EVLT and DOW go under contract to buy the property, so that it's less of a financial burden to the town that we listed it in the event that a conservation buyer arises. But there is a process ahead, but you agreed to list the property. And I guess there is some crazy remote possibility that somebody could say, well, I've got $11 million and I don't care that there's no zoning, and I'll put an easement for the little trail in the corner, and they could show up and say, I'm ready to buy it. But you would still in town, they'd have to come to you for zoning to do anything related to the property.
Mm-hmm. So
I think that's such an important point. And just as somebody that's worked as a planner previously, I know there's some discussion about like pre-zoning. And I just feel like it's better if the land's not entitled, so that you know who you're dealing with when they come, versus somebody that would say, oh, there's already some entitlement. How can I make this work the best for me? I don't know if you agree with that, but I just think it's better to have somebody come to you and then entitle versus entitled for who you don't know.
Well, I mean, to sum it all up again, as we said in the previous meeting, there is a process. And this process, as delineated in fairly decent detail just now, there is going to be an extensive number of public hearings, engagements, processes that will provide clarity for everybody. Period.
So hopefully your first question was answered. Right? Thank you for your endurance.
I have 5 others. Well, yes, and Mike answered too, that if in the time being, they come with the contract, but Eagle Valley Land Trust and the rest of them come with something else, so that can be worked on. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Terry, if you're still there.
Comments or concerns, other things?
No, I think that was a good wrap up.
Well, like I say, we've instituted over the last couple of decades processes. It's been a long process, but our processes prevent us from not consulting our community. We have public hearings on anything that's going to piss people off. And we learned that back in the 90s. So hopefully, people will understand that and we try to notice. We have several different avenues that we notice, email blasts, talking here to say this is coming up, our regular meetings. We also try to do special notices. And if it's something that's really important, like for instance, putting up temporary, what are those things called? Our temporary ballasts that were out there in the Main Street. We even put door hangers on everybody's house and business. And boy, do people just crawl all over us. But we're trying to do it. But we will continue to try to do that. And so if we feel like Highlands is going away, maybe people won't like, if we have to put door hangers again, maybe they'll read it and come in and talk to us. Because y'all heard me say this all the time. Governing in vacuum sucks. I appreciate Lynn showing up. I appreciate Terry showing up. I wish everybody else that are disturbed about it would show up and give us some input. And y'all give us input, but that's about it. So here we are. Yes.
I'll donate time to putting the door hangers on the doors.
I think that input does matter. I think people, even if they don't have time to come to a meeting, they can always send an email. We got an email from a resident last week, just expressing some positions on it that weren't super solid, but we do need that input. And I think another thing that came to light, and I discussed with Mike, is I was looking at the 2024 comfort letter that we got from the EPA about, the Highlands and the associated sites. And one of the things that I wasn't quite aware of in that letter, that EPA and CDPHE said that prior to the construction of an access road, that we needed to coordinate with them and have that approved, or at least that's what was in that letter. So there's a lot of complexity to doing anything over there. And that's, any buyer's going to have to be ready for it. It's going to be slow.
Yep.
Terry, is your hand raised again?
Terry?
Oh, it looked like she'd lowered it again.
Big handed. Big hand.
Hey, Terry, we're not hearing you.
I think she's.
Hi guys,
Okay, gotcha. Sorry.
Sorry, Terry, I said 1632. No, I appreciate it. I mean, Tom and I were going back and forth, and I totally understand the process. Mike remembers me from the days of the land swap, where I thought if we had an intention never to swap the land that was Meadow Mountain and Grouse, then why start the process? Why invite the Forest Service in? And I do feel like this was the same thing. I mean, I didn't get the opportunity to protest listing this property, and that's my fault. And but I also grew up with a mom who was a realtor, and so I actually knew that if you list the property and you have the terms of your listing, you can't just list something to feel something out. And so I'm not sure all of you knew that, but anyway, that was my feeling on the Highlands parcel, because I knew in my heart where I wanted this to go, and that's conservation. And I've said it since the settlement conversations. And if I do feel like if we had a real mind to pursue conservation, that's what we would be doing. And I understand saying that, you know, if it's their turn to come to the table, but somebody has to invite them. Like a phone call from the mayor could reach out to any number of organizations that would be interested in purchasing this land for conservation. And I would be willing to make phone calls as well. And, you know, if anybody wants to pursue that option seriously, we could reach out to them and say, you know, hey, this is listed now. And, you know, our true intent is to conserve this as it was the public's intent. And I get it. Like, we don't have all the information for the water treatment plant. And I worked on that for 8 years. So I banged my head against the wall trying to get that thing through. And nobody knows that more than me as well. So I understand very much that that's important as well. So I just think, you know, we're kind of on the train now. So, you know, whatever I can do to facilitate the original intent of that land, which was conservation. And a ranch is not that. A ranch is definitely not conservation. So I appreciate you guys letting me talk. Obviously, I'm emotional about it. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Terry. I'm sorry. Amanda, are you on?
Oh, and maybe mute me because we're cooking dinner and everybody's.
This is Amanda Meir, 414 Eagle Street, Minturn, Colorado. I just want to echo Terry and Lynn's sentiments. Apologies that I could not be there in person. All intentions to be there. Just have family matters that needed attending to, but listening intently. And I just really echo Terry's sentiment about the conservation and that we should, that's what the public had spoken out to. And that's what I think all of us thought was being pursued. But I agree with Terry that the train, you know, when you list a property, that starts the motion. So anything, you know, just echo both Terry and Lynn's sentiments. And again, want to make sure that on record that I was in attendance. Thanks.
Thank you, Amanda. Okay. If there's nothing else, we'll move on to future agenda items. Any things to put on the list? Okay.
Can we get the golf cart just actually on there? It's been on our long term for.
Well, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
I think we need to talk on drafting changes, which we haven't quite got to yet, or maybe Cindy could speak to that.
Well, we had an issue just about the size of the golf cart, but I think we had some more stuff just like in general, like access and going different directions, like access around.
I think we should give Cindy an opportunity because she's the one who's been thinking about this. Jay also has historical knowledge and has been thinking about this. Give them an opportunity to pull a little memo together and then come, and it should be a discussion item so that you give us direction as to what you want us to put in front of you. So why don't you talk with Jay and Cindy and see what their timing is and. Yeah.
Okay. Just want to make sure that that's not just about the size of the cart and business operations. I think in general, we talk about golf carts and snowmobiles.
Oh, okay.
So, but maybe that discussion will go that direction when we get.
Okay, we will give you a date.
All right, thanks.
Okay. Do they have four-wheel drive golf carts?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?